So President Biden last Thursday got through the address in a good way for him and his party, not for America. It was not a State of the Union address. It was a campaign speech. And he got through it. And we know that because immediately afterward, in about 24 hours after, $10 million rolled in to the Democrats. All right, so the Democratic stalwarts were happy with Biden's presentation. I got a bunch of email from liberal acquaintances, and they were very happy with what Joe Biden did because it gave the Democrats hope. If he had faltered, as I analyzed last week, then it would have been over. But Biden got through it. Now, did he get through it with style? No. He was far too aggressive, far too partisan, didn't admit any mistakes, which is almost impossible to believe, but he didn't. Okay, because he was playing to his own party. He wasn't talking to people in the Republican Party or independents. He was talking to Democrats. And he was going, look, I can do this. I can handle this. I got this, is the cliche. Okay, so it was stunning, but Mr. Biden believes in his heart that he is a fantastic president, that he's one of the greatest presidents this country has ever seen. He believes that, and nobody's going to change his opinion. And his wife believes it, and the sycophants around him in the White House, they don't believe it, but they say it. And the press props him up. But in his own mind, Joe Biden thinks he is the greatest president. Jimmy Carter did too, interestingly enough. There were very few failures as presidents who thought they were failures. Right? Herbert Hoover didn't think he was a failure. I basically go, whoa. All right, so you know, it's important you know the mindset that he was in. Again, he did not make any mistakes whatsoever. No humility, none. And I wrote in my column on Sunday, what does Joe Biden and Donald Trump, what do Joe Biden and Donald Trump have in common? Neither one of them will admit a mistake ever. And that is the truth. I'll read a letter later on that scolds me for saying that, but I say the truth. Now, the most interesting part of this State of the Union address, which was almost entirely propaganda and socialism, and it was socialism, I'll get to that, was when Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Republican, began heckling the president. Go.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of the thousands of people being killed by illegals?
Appalling. But not for the reason you might think. He doesn't know who Laken Riley is. All right, and that goes back to the fact that he cannot absorb information. Joe Biden. He doesn't really know who she is. Right? It's not a real thing to him. So it's Lincoln Riley because he heard something somewhere. That's number one. He makes the mistake of calling undocumented aliens illegal. Okay. Because he doesn't understand that the woke culture has now banished the words illegal alien. Doesn't quite get that. All right? Because they didn't tell him that before he went to the speech. But the worst thing is this statement from him. By an illegal, that's right. But how many thousands of people are being killed by legals? That means by Americans. This is fifth grade stuff. Pointing to other bad behavior to justify your bad behavior or whatever you want to do. Now, I've said this, 1,000 times? You don't justify bad behavior by pointing to other bad behavior. That's fifth grade stuff. So when I heard that, I went, you know, the man is a simpleton. And I'm not using that in a disrespectful way. He's a simpleton. He cannot grasp the seriousness of the murder of Laken Riley. He cannot grasp it. If he could, he would have called the family. It's as simple as that. He didn't call the family. Just like he didn't go to East Palestine when the train went off the track. He didn't go. He doesn't care. If he cared, he would have closed the border 3 years ago. He doesn't. You know, when I say that, people, oh, O'Reilly, you're partisan, you're this, you're that. The man does not care. Okay? How hard is it to have your people set up a call with the Riley family? How hard is that? It's not hard. Okay. So I was horrified by that whole thing. And then, predictably, Nancy Pelosi goes on television. Go.
Now, you should have said undocumented, but that's not a big thing, okay? What's the big thing about it?
No, I actually wasn't even going to ask about that. I was just going to ask more about the moment. But you do think that he should have said undocumented? That wasn't going to be my question.
Well, we usually say undocumented. He said illegal. I don't think it's a big deal.
Okay.
I don't think it's a big deal.
But more broadly...
Because I think his focus was on the sympathy for the family.
No, it wasn't. If he was sympathetic, the family would have called him. And the woman at CNN, Dana Bash, should have just said that. But never in a million years would she say that, Dana Bash, ever. What's the point of having a television news operation? Okay, so Allison Phillips is the mother of the slain Laken Riley. She posted this on the internet. Biden does not even know my child's name. It's pathetic. If you're going to say her name, even when forced to do so, at least say the right name. And I share Ms. Phillips's disappointment. Okay, to me, it's very clear, but not to my very intelligent liberal friends, because they don't want to believe that Biden is a simpleton, that Biden doesn't care. They don't want to believe it. And no matter how much evidence you present, they're not going to. Now, the second part of the speech that was disturbing to me is the socialism. So Biden wants to raise the corporate tax from 21%, where it is now, to 28%, because the corporations have to pay their fair share. How many years has this been going on, the fair share stuff? So that's not going to get through unless the Democrats win both houses, which they could, and Biden's reelected. But if it gets through, guess who's going to pay the 7% hike in corporations? You and me. So if you want to buy a car, General Motors is going to pass that tax hike on to the consumer. That's how it works. Biden doesn't know that. He's not smart enough to know it. But all of this fair share BS, and that's what it is. I mean, I run 3 corporations. I pay an enormous amount of tax. So much tax that if I didn't feel I had an obligation to you, I'd pack it. It's not worth it. That's how much tax I pay living in New York. They're taking more than 50% when you add it all up. And it's clear to me that if Biden is reelected, this country will go on a fast track to socialism, particularly if the 2 houses of Congress go Democrat. That's what they want. And what is socialism? So you know, to your friends, the government runs the economy. They call all the shots. That's what it is. And that's a memo.